What is a freshie? Well, if you had to describe someone as a freshie, you'd probably say a new player or someone who hasn't made any progress. You also probably spell it wrong. But do any of you know the actual origin of the term and how it originally started, or even what it originally meant? In today's video, I'll be going over the origins of terms like this and other commonly used terms and words within Deepwoken. Before we get into it, check me out at twitch.tv/Reaconteur, where I'll be live 20 minutes after posting this video. And also check out my live channel right now. You're going to watch the live channel videos, all of them. You're going to watch all of them, because that's where I put the passion and the effort. So watch those videos. And let's get straight into it. The first term up is freshie, which 90% of you are probably spelling wrong. Freshie with a Y is singular. Freshies with an IE and S is plural. Freshie singular with IE is wrong, and also just weird. Anyway, the term freshie originally comes from Rogue Lineage, the predecessor game to Deepwoken. Freshie is short for fresh spawn, which was used to describe a slot or account because Rogue Lineage didn't have slots, which had no progress and just spawned in. However, back then it was pretty much never used as an insult, at least not on its own. In Rogue Lineage, freshie slots were very useful depending on the race. Scrooms for farming kills, or grips, which I'll cover in a second, Casprins for farming jails, and other various races for stuff like Tomeless, all of which you'd ask for various race freshies for. The insult version of freshie would be a perma-freshie, which is short for being a permanent fresh spawn, aka someone who's so bad at the game that they're hard stuck being a fresh spawn or freshie because you can't make any real progress. This term became commonly used in Rogue Lineage among other inspired games and eventually found its way to Deepwoken before becoming mutilated by Europeans who would spell it wrong. I'm not even joking. It was spelled freshie IE by a Polish house in Rogue Lineage, and I guess for some reason that ended up getting adapted to Deepwoken, and now this wrongful spelling today is actually now the most popularly used variant of the word freshie, ending in an IE despite it being singular, even though freshie is with a Y. The next term is grip, which is often used for killing someone and has actually spread all over ROBLOX for when you're killing someone in games, usually used in like permadeath games, kind of like inspired games similarly to like sorcery and stuff like that. This term also comes from Rogue Lineage, the reason being the animations used when killing involved grabbing them or gripping them harshly before punching them to death, which was the default fist kill animation. The other animation which looks similar to this was the dagger animation, which was the same floor grab except this time you would slice their throat, and those were the Rogue Lineage kill animations. Along with that, the word kill couldn't be used on ROBLOX due to censorship, and this was before voice chat, so it would always get tagged and censored. Because of that, grip was an easy to spell short alternative word which wasn't censored by ROBLOX, so it became the default replacement for the word kill and has been used pretty much ever since for both Rogue Lineage, Deepwoken, and a lot of other games. Now the next term is skill issue, which is actually a very popular term all over the internet, and it's spread pretty virally, but it's important for this video due to its origins, which like the last few terms were also Rogue Lineage. Skill issue was first used by Rogue Lineage players as a sarcastic mocking of anyone who they wanted to call bad at the game. It's pretty self-explanatory. Whatever your problem is, the issue is your skill level. And yes, Know Your Meme, the website, claims that it was properly and probably popularized by ROBLOX and Rogue Lineage players in 2020, but I remember the phrase being used as far back as mid to late 2019, back when Rogue Lineage averaged around 2,000 to 3,000 players, and then it became common use all over the internet because it's funny. Then we have the mutually exclusive terms 5-barred and greened. Greened is used way less than 5-barred today due to the differences between Rogue Lineage and Deepwoken, as well as the differences between ROBLOX back then, but they both mean the same thing. 5-barred is a term originating from Deepwoken, while greened originated from Rogue Lineage, but they mean the same thing. Essentially, you got flawless or easily beaten by your opponent. These days, I believe the kids would call it a low diff or something like that. Am I using that right? I sound so old. The term greened comes from the old ROBLOX UI. It used to have a health bar in the top right under your username, which would be green, yellow, orange, or red, depending on how much health you had. So the term greened came from beating people while your ROBLOX health bar was still green, or around 80% or higher. And actually, even though the term was very popular on Rogue Lineage, I believe it originally came from ABA, which came out before Rogue Lineage by like a year. So people were using the term greened on ABA, which then came over to Rogue Lineage, because those games are actually pretty closely connected due to their similar development team, with PAR being a big part of both of those games. And because of that, greened ended up becoming big from ABA, came over to Rogue Lineage, and is used less now today because games are slightly different and ROBLOX is slightly different, but it was big on ROBLOX back then. As for the term 5-barred, part of that term's existence comes from the new UI Deepwoken has in comparison to Rogue Lineage. And the new UI that Deepwoken has marks every 20% on your health bar, leading to there being 5 mini bars inside your health bar, which everyone just calls a bar. So you getting 5-barred means someone has pretty much all 5 bars of health and they beat you or they flawlessed you. Pretty easy to understand. And then there's health pack. This term originated on Deepwoken because in Deepwoken, when you kill someone, you get a heal or a health pack. Calling someone a health pack basically just means that you're no real threat and only exist to heal your enemies in a team fight or gank. And speaking of the term gank is a pretty wide term for a variety of things. A big team fight, ganking or jumping someone is also how you'd use it. And the term did not originate in Deepwoken or even Rogue Lineage, but I'm sure most of you know that. However, it's commonly used all over the internet and in gaming, and it is actually short for a gang kill, or like when you jump someone. And the term originated from old MMO players and was popularized by World of Warcraft players before finding its way in basically every team-based PvP game ever. I first heard it in For Honor back in like 2015. Anyway, the term just followed Deepwoken as it did every other team-based PvP game like League of Legends, World of Warcraft, Dota, For Honor, etc. You get the point. However, Deepwoken kind of adapted the term gank differently, because people would use gank for when you were specifically jumping someone in most games, up until Deepwoken, where it actually kind of changed slightly to just be any sort of, team fight or attack. Because while a gank was generally used for outnumbering someone or fighting them unfairly, people in Deepwoken just use the word gank for any large-scale fight, really. Now, along with gank, KOS, or the acronym for kill on sight, similarly didn't come from Deepwoken and is more so just part of internet and gaming culture that is also part of Deepwoken and was a part of Rogue Lineage, because it's kind of just deeply rooted with gaming and stuff like that. Which is why a house or a guild now, because guilds are in Deepwoken, houses were in Rogue Lineage, would put you on a KOS or a kill on sight list, and meant that they just want to kill you as soon as they saw you in any server. Then there's all the slang for lookalike stuff in Deepwoken. Now, most of these are no longer commonly used by players, specifically newer players, but back in the old days of Deepwoken, before there was a wiki, many things were kind of just unofficially named after their lookalikes or their inspirations, specifically with bells. A majority of Deepwoken's early bells were inspired by Valorant operator abilities, so many of them were called these names by testers, and early players adopted those nicknames as well. For example, the Portal's bell was called Yoru, Run It Back was called Phoenix Bell, Dimensional Travel is actually still called Kamui pretty commonly, but teleportation was called Flying Raijin, which I haven't heard in a long time, and Crazy Slots is literally just Crazy Slots from Hunter x Hunter, name and all. And I'm sure that if Divide Chorus existed by then, it would have been called Gogeta Bell or something like that, but it isn't. And there's a lot more examples of stuff like this, like how people would call Blood Scourge Reaper Bell, because it kind of just stole your soul. It's kind of like a Reaper thing, it just insta-killed you. I'm not sure if that one was a reference, I actually don't think it is, but people would call it Reaper regardless, and people actually still call it Reaper. That's one of the only ones that has stuck, other than Kamui. And the reason why most of the bells, or at least a lot of the early bells, were based on Valorant character ultimates is because Archmage and Reaconteur are big Valorant players. I'm pretty sure Reaconteur was immortal at one point, which, yeah, that makes sense. Honestly, they both fit the bill for that. No, but I think it's kind of funny. So a lot of the older bells are just inspired by stuff that they liked, which is why we have like Hunter x Hunter, we have Wind Up and Crazy Slots, we have Valorant bells, we have all of that stuff. Then there's the term track star, which is also very common. I'm pretty sure most of you know what it is. It's a pretty self-explanatory one. It also originally comes from Rogue Lineage before it was adopted by Deepwoken players, but it's not really the most original thing. It's just someone who runs a lot or really well. So you're a star on the track, you're a track star. It's really just a real word term that they turned into the game. Originally in Rogue Lineage, it was mostly used for people who played agility-based classes like Faceless or Shinobi, but it became more common as everyone in that game started using Snap, Gelidus, and Gate, and running became the meta. I'm not even joking. There's a whole meta behind running in Rogue Lineage, which is why mobility-based stuff is still the strongest, because they don't update that game anymore. Then we have boosting, or being boosted. This is another pretty simple one. It just means you got brought up to where you are, power or level-wise, and in Rogue Lineage, this term started out as a method of progression. Usually players would get boosted or boost themselves by feeding themselves the necessary parts of progression like grips and silver, and this was then turned into an insult. Players would call each other boosted as a way of saying that you aren't good enough to progress on your own normally. However, this was also very ironic because 99%, if not all Rogue Lineage players, would at least self-boost with grips from Scroom alts, and with how big the Rogue Lineage black marketing scene was, most of them wouldn't even do the progression anymore because so many people just buy accounts. Although today it is still an insult, it's less relevant due to how easy Deepwoken and the progression in that game is comparatively to Rogue Lineage, so honestly, boosted it really isn't a valid insult in this game. Then the next term is depths wagering, or just wagering, sometimes called de-wagering. This term originates on Deepwoken. A depths wager is simply a fight where you wager your slot's life in the depths by fighting someone in the depths. Usually people depths wager against someone that they don't like and they think they're better than in PvP, so the loser wipes their slot because they think they're better than you if they want to depths wager you. Chances are they just lost to you and are mad about it and want a rematch, and really think they can beat you because they're just mad about it. And that brings us to the final term, which is wipe. Wipe or wiping is just short for wiping your character in a permadeath game. It's pretty simple. It originates in ROBLOX, which was like the first real mainstream permadeath game on Roblox, where you would wipe after dying 3 times, 4 if you're a Casper, but that's, you know, regardless. Regardless, this term is pretty self-explanatory. A wipe is just when you wipe your slot and lose everything on it. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to check out my live channel, because, you know, I like the videos on there more than these ones. Actually, I do like this video quite a bit, though. This one was more fun to make than the average ones, but sometimes I run out of ideas. And also, I release song covers every month, and I just released a song cover like a day or 2 ago from when you guys were watching this. So buy a YouTube membership if you want to hear all my song covers, and check me out over at twitch.tv/Reaconteur, and shout out to YouTube members of tier 2 or higher: Green, Philip, Delusional Mo, Broccoli, Akio Sugikuni, Zerkskis, IXKMB, Unigio, Jersey Drake Fan, and welcome new tier 2 member, Abridged Gauther. Please let me know if I said that properly. I love you all as usual, have an amazing day, and goodbye.